This would be EDG's first ever World Championship. They can make that one happen. Already it's their first semi-final. GENG, carrying on the legacy of Samsung Galaxy, has 2 World Championships under their belt, looking to make that one number 3.
All right, quickly catching up on the champ select here. Still retaining that Lee Sin priority. I think that is valid here. Put Clit on this champion once again for GENG. Maybe they can turn it around with a bit of playmaking bottom side. They pick up the Rakan comboed with the Jhin. But on the other side, Lyric, this Graves for Flandre that we've been so focused on, and the team has been so focused on with the majority of
7 games, Kobe, 7 games.
It's actually insane. You know, after the very strong performance on Jackson the previous one, now him being on his most comfortable champion here at the tournament.
Even when we look at mid lane now, with EDG locking in the Rise, this has been Scout's go-to so far at Worlds. I think he's had his best performances on this champion, and it gives him a lot of agency to play around both sides of the map.
Wow, and this is EDG blind picking both solo laners. So they can ban out. You're gonna have to spread your bans between top as well as mid lane here to try and cover both if you're trying to get something there. But it should be easy jungle focus, or excuse me, bottom lane focus for GENG this time. Viper and Mako. They won so much of the last game, all the early game pressure, all these advantages won by Viper and Mako, and now they're being a little bit hung out to dry and pick bans. Gonna soak up some of these bans. The famous Ezreal for Viper not gonna be picked up here. Expected to follow it up again. You know, Felius is also already banned, so they're whittling so heavily down on this.
Yep.
Fortune, I would think, would be the final.
It's that or Lulu. Keep in mind, Mako already showed he's willing to play Lulu into Rakan. It was a good matchup yesterday. It was a good matchup last week. It is a counter pick. Generally speaking, enchanters are good into Rakan. We even saw Zillion, another matchup that worked just well. So I'm curious if you do go support, or as you're mentioning, the misfortune, if you go AD carry, Draven instead. The option, keep in mind, Draven E can just kind of break Rakan W as a decent option. You can throw it at Jhin as well. So for his ultimate, things to look at here. So I'm curious. I feel like you can get a very good-looking bot lane here from EDG.
Yeah, and looks like they might be just going towards this Jinx. Viper's played pretty much everything in the LPL. Played the Jinx, played the Vayne, the Draven was played 1 game, so I really wouldn't be surprised to see him pull out anything.
Exactly, that's the key thing for me, because when he was on Griffin, when he was in the LCK, he even played the Yasuo, the Vladimir down bottom. I literally cannot be surprised by any pick from Viper. He can actually play anything. This man is so gifted in the diversity of his champion pool. Meanwhile, the top laners in this matchup, not so much. And with it being whittled down here, it's going back to the Renekton for Rascal. I don't love it into the Graves. I feel like the Graves just has so many more options. Lyric, you have all the roads you can travel down with this. You know, he can farm up a bit better. He can scale up a bit better. The Renekton doesn't really bring a whole lot that you're going to utilize as a point of power here. And so they're going to rely on BDD as usual, Freak.
Yep,
get him his Azir. That's going to be the game plan.
Yeah, and it feels like with the Renekton, right, it's just comfort for Rascal up in the top. So they do have a lot of early game power coming out with both the Lee Sin and Rakan as well as that Renekton. Jhin, of course, going to be able to do fine in that bot lane. To our EDG, again, sticking with some identities of scaling in their composition with the Jinx, and again, an Enchanter bot lane for Mako, but still having the agency with the Jarvan coming out.
I actually think it's so sad that we're seeing all of these Enchanters from Mako, and they're just jumping on this Enchanter train. Why? Because this man, over the course of his career, I've loved him on engaged support.
His Alistar, it's so fun to watch. But yeah.
You know, what can you say to buffing up Viper, right? Yeah. This is so much security for them.
And I'm always a sucker for new stuff coming out. I was over the moon seeing Zillion yesterday. I'm happy that we've got Enchanter players, we got tank players, we got a bunch of different looks here in this draft. And Jinx is a champion you can absurdly snowball in the bottom lane. If you get a kill, you get excited, you show up for jungle gank, you are going to just delete turret plates. And they've got advantage 2-on-2.
Especially when you even just look at comps holistically, right? Because Genji's comp isn't that tanky, isn't that durable. So Jinx will just be able to utilize that passive and continuously mow down members of Genji in team fights. For Genji, I'm really curious to see where they do go with this early on. You would expect typically it should be just Jhin being left by himself, Rakan making his way up towards the top side. You have the Renekton and trying to find some kill pressure because you do have the all-in threat with your slice and dice into the stun. But for Genji, Rascal just has not been their point of strength at Worlds so far.
Here we go on to the Rift. Game 2. Edward Gaming won a pretty close game 1. Genji had claimed 2 Barons against them, but EDG with control over the top and bottom lane ensured that nothing bad happened, and they had control the whole way through. A Mountain Soul closed it out in the end, and now we get to see what happens onto this one. GENG putting a lot of eggs in the BDD basket. Rascal on a heavily nerfed Renekton, not even a counter pick really here. The bot lane I feel like looks better for EDG as well, so Clit and BDD, it looks like it's on you from draft.
Yeah, and as much as BDD is Azir. He is Azir and Zoe. Scout, most played champion here at Worlds has been Ryze. And you mentioned a couple times in the last game, Lyric, as we see a level 1 invade here for JJ. Not going to be fully scared, though. Throws down the flag, and Flandre comes to make sure that there's not going to be any repeat play. But the ward does get in there inside the back of Red Pit. Scout, talking about very quickly there, the Ryze gives you the opportunities for the roams here. We'll see if they can actually get priority for him to affect the side lanes.
Yeah, and for GENG, you could be looking a little bit post-6, in my opinion, if you want to try and influence that matchup, right? Once Azir has the ultimate, you can look for, as Dagda calls it, the all swoop and boop, push Ryze into the Lee Sin, try and look to kill him, and then, pivot towards the top side of the map and try and set up Rascal. But for GENG, I definitely think they at least have more tools than they did last game to set up for the skirmishes, like people like Chronicler were saying on the analyst desk.
I love Flandre's move here, because he knows he is going to own this Renekton if he's got awareness of the jungler. So he goes straight up 1v2 solo wards the enemy blue. The most effective strategy versus Renekton, and especially now after the stun got nerfed, is to shove him off of the first wave. Look at this. This is brutal.
It's so rough.
This is literally the perfect game plan versus Renekton. If you deny him access to the minions early, then he can't charge up the rage. Level 1 Renekton has no threat. So Flandre, all you have to account for is the jungle, and he goes and gets his information himself, then just brutalizes Rascal here.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing Rascal could do, or Clid could do, is finish Wolves, loop through the alley towards like mid-top, and then go for a gank. And that's, you give your entire bottom jungle if that happens. And by the way, JJ going for a very full clear. Red, Raptors also on Krugs. If he does go for the 3 gank, counter gank. You win that fight anyway.
This is exactly why we were hyper-focused on the picks and bans surrounding top side of the map in this series. And Flandre, after the advantage...
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Oh, this is going to be brutal. Rascal can try TP up for both mid lanes if it's going to happen. Rascal does hit 3, though. That's an important power spike as many minions have died, but they're going to try for this dive. Can he make it happen? TPing another Ryze as well.
Wait.
When do they hit the button? They find the first slow. He's already dashed 1 time. Second one's going to flash into the blue area, but that means it is at least half a wave, maybe a second one dropping.
Yeah, JJ there gives him actually a good slice and dice. That is the one thing you're looking at as a jungler whenever you're ganking Renekton. But Rascal returns to the scene of the crime.
All right, Scout's going to miss some farm, but now Rascal is flashless. He's caught up a little bit of CS. Healing, his Q's now on cooldown. There's the knockup, there's the combo. Scout pulled the aggro. Goodbye, top lane's over.
What's going on here, Lyric? Bottom side of the map is going to be answered by GENG, but that is willingly walking back in there for Rascal. And mid lane was not hard pushing, Freak, so it wasn't like the communication was there and VDD was saying, hey, I've got the minion wave up to his tower, there's pressure pulling Ryze back.
Yeah,
he was slow pushing.
That was just so strange coming out from Rascal, walking straight to his death. EDG also did it well with Scout being the one to pull the aggro because he can stand right on the edge of turret range, walk out, and missing a ton of CS as well. Flandre now 28-14.
That's why Graves has been talked about so much this series or this tournament, because you have so much control of the minion wave in so many different matchups here. And so building up that minion wave, capitalizing on it with the dive. Clid, though, has a little bit of extra information, and he's got his recon coming, so his support is on the way. He wants to make the most of it, and it's just going to be a stolen wolf.
JJ did have his smite up, didn't realize in time Clid was going to get the steal, so okay, that is some camps down. Worth noting, though, that Clid indeed has a level lead as a result. Bot lane CS difference is 3 with 2 more to farm, so slightly GENG favorite early on, some of that being jungle pressure.
I like to always bring this up, is re-entering the side of the map where you have already given so much priority to your opponents. They made this double play on top side, so a large amount of time spent by both EDG's mid and jungle on the top side of the map. So then when you re-enter your jungle there for JJ, you have to know that this was previously controlled by GENG. They had so much time to set up there, get some vision, get some positioning, and it's kind of like for him that the rewards were only smiting away the wolf.
And I think for EDG, with the fact that, right, you have consciously chosen to put all your resources into Flandre, that means Clid on the other side, you're going to answer and be the one to get ahead. I want to see EDG look for another play on the top half of the map. Both junglers, of course, are up there right now. It looked like the wave from Rascal was going into Flandre, but Flandre instead just going to keep looking to deny and push Rascal under his tower.
All right, wave down in the mid lane. Farm, +1 for Scout, honestly. Well done keeping out of your lane and still keeping up on that result. Was able to buy the tier as well and walk back, so he's going to feel comfy. VDD, though, does have TP advantage. We'll spot that one over time. Good root means a knockup on a Viper. Decent damage, but Lulu with shields and Guardians not too bad. Looking to reset probably fairly soon as Mako is out of mana. and that can be tough to lane that way. Though has Biscuits to keep it alive for now. With a bot pressure, not going to find too much more as the cannon falls and they sidestep.
GENG doing a nice job of not allowing Viper to push in and get the reset.
Ignite is good damage. Will not kill Viper just yet. Choppers come down to make sure there's no more chase, but it still is going to force the recall, and Viper may be on a somewhat ugly recall as a result.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to end up missing a wave. Viper might have to back off, though GEG doing a nice job of hovering down to make sure that Viper can stick around and catch his wave.
Yeah, I was going to say, I believe there was that ward up by the top side that just saw Clid, so they know there's a little bit of time before Clid comes for a possible dive. That's why Viper has the confidence here. They just wait on JJ to hover. You just need a shadow, make sure the Jinx can still pick it up, and Clid
rooted in place, not going to be in range for anymore as the TP comes down. That's going to be VOD rejoining, so yep, out goes JJ. A bot lane shows up as well to make sure the scuttle goes over, and that will be claimed by Clid.
A really nice by GENG to kind of sync that one up. BD on a reset can just instantly TP in and make sure that nothing happens. Of course, because of this previous bot play, GENG did have push in bot side as well.
But it leaves open. Now, his teleport has already been used to cover for a crab. It's the top side. You cannot cover for this Renekton any further. And so Flandre, again, just to push this Graves Renekton matchup to the most extreme. Again, remember, this is pushed to this level by the extra information. Warding out the jungler, keeping track of him there. Not necessarily the extra avoidance of mid lane, but Flandre flirting with a little bit here as Clid clears out the control ward.
I do feel like GENG so far have done a pretty decent job at least stabilizing Rascal. You can see Clid is just constantly hovered around pretty much each of his lanes to make sure that JJ can't look for these plays. And gold pretty much even so far.
And most of the goal difference is going to be that first blood. Obviously, 600 handed over as a result of the kill, and the assists farm has been fairly close. But yeah, I'm curious how much more bleeds out, because it's already been 2 plates taken up there.
So last game, even when Edward Gaming got such big early advantages, there was still the other side we could go to for GENG, and we're like, oh my goodness, they can still rally around their team fighting with Seraphine and making use of the double enchanters. But this game, I find it a little bit disingenuous if you wanted to go back to that. Like, there are so much fewer outs that GENG have this time around because of their draft. The Renekton is going to be useless. This is a useless little meatball there that's going to try and, buy some time for the Azir to hit. You're facing a Lulu'd up Jinx, okay? So I feel like GENG's hopes right now are literally, God BDD, please save us. Because other than that, it has to be some insane picks and performances from the Rakan, from the Lee Sin to just outplay the side of EDG. Barring that, though, EDG have so many outs in this game. They can split push with Ryze later. They can team fight with the Lulu'd up Jinx. It just seems so much in their advantage.
However, I've got a curse for you. Water spill on the EDG side.
Oh,
Viper.
No way.
Clid lost game 1 off of a water spill. It wasn't off the water spill, but there's a water spill on Viper's side. Obviously cleaned up, now ready to go. But, just pay attention during these pauses. Who is the one with the klutzy fingers? And
Detective Freak.
might just let you know.
Who spilled the water? It was Viper on stage with the keyboard.
Now we're going to see if Viper can pick himself up a kill as well. But nope. Not going to be able to find it. And going back to the point that you were making, Kobe, while we were in the pause, is that I agree, GENG's comp just looks so much less forgiving. It's kind of like a bit of a pit comp in the early game, and then late game it is all on BDD. The problem is you have Viper that outranges absolutely everyone on the side of GENG.
And they've got tanks on the other side too. Like, Jhin is not great at working through tanks, while you can kind of rely on Azir. If Azir is your only hardcore scaling component, then you have very difficult times going up against, guess what? Flandre's super fed on the Graves. He's going to have so many options, as well as the, Jinx Lulu. Anyways, back to the early stages where GENG still have hope. If they can get Rift-Tailed and push us ahead, this is where you want to make use of those pick opportunities, Lyric. That's how, like we said, you outplay with this comp. It's not all based on the comps, it's about how you play. Can they get some of these pickoffs? Can they make use of this Rift-Tail to gain map territory?
But the other side of the map is EDG controlling the bot lane. Ruler has just forsaken bot lane because, wait a second, Ryze is missing, Jarvan's missing, we're all topside. 2 turret plates just now went to Viper, without even having to roam out of the lane, right? Normally it's like, oh yeah, they cross-mapped us. We brought our AD carry up, we got Herald, they stayed down. Both bot lanes were down, and it was still 2 plates taken.
Clid hovering for a possible outplay. One of those big Rakan plays, Flash try and get in there, and yet, perfect back off there from EDG. They just finished on the wave, so they're easily able to recall and reset, and another one of these attempts or opportunities not achieve.
And a lot of this actually does stem from what's happening in top lane, right? All the map is connected. Flandre able to play very self-sufficiently. Has been getting his own vision if you do look at River to where he's able to play like this. Rascal fighting it all in though.
For a lot of damage. Second dash going to be up soon. Flandre! Oh, Rascal! He was first blooded, he was camped, and he solo kills Flandre.
Really nice coming out from him. Seriously, he's been set so far behind, but able to find his own opportunity to find the kill.
Is that enough? He lies in wait, patience in the brush. Freak, these outplays, you know, the positioning here, it means everything. If the Graves can walk into you right by your brush in River, that is the opportunity you have to snatch on the world stage. The door opens, the patience there for Rascal pays off, and he's able to jump on the unsuspecting Graves, gets his all in, one of the few opportunities, and he really makes the most of it after just taking so much abuse early on in this game. Must feel extremely good because they also trade flashes.
And it also goes to, you know, us questioning the Renekton in draft. That's why they picked the Renekton, because it's a champion that Rascal feels extremely comfortable on, has played it many times throughout the split. Waits for Flandre to walk up, gets straight on top of him, does pop the ult, and he realizes, hey, I still have the flash up. Even if Flandre gets away, he'll be able to follow. And that slice and dice forward in the path that Flandre would go, so critical to make sure he'd be able to finish that one off. And then nice by Clid, even hovering mid to make sure they're winning on both sides of the map with this play.
GENG coming a lot closer, still a 1,000 gold deficit, but First Dragon and a Herald Summon in mid is going to be at least 320 more gold if they can auto it more. Add 160 to that number as Scout's going to do his best to clear the wave, but again, those plates are taken. Now, BDD, I don't believe is getting his share of that gold, so it's all on to Clid. You are not accelerating the Azir with that charge, which is a little unfortunate. You can see his gold just tied with the Rise. And off, you know, they're going to go out of that one. So the gold difference still going to stay just about that 1,000. Though again, Lisa not quite that heavy scaler. Mid lane clear real quick. And yeah, now my eyes are on Rascal a bit. If he can solo kill in the 5th year of his career, going to a nerf Renekton, that's a good look.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I really highlight that he was, you know, his positioning and waiting in the bush. Very intelligent move from him in keeping track. Definitely does swing a lot on this. You can see on the minimap that Flandre is now constantly pinging the Renekton and constantly pinging these brush. Because if he does not walk up into it and get that start, then you don't get the all-in for the chase down.
It also goes back to the point about Flandre trying to be self-sufficient, of GENG punishing that.
Ace comes in, they get the root onto Lee Sin just barely, but a charm and knock-up. Meiko wants to tank the Q from Lee and is able to do so. The big health comes across, Wardhop to kick backwards. Is this going to be enough to kill out Viper? He's running for his life, his health bar is at 1 and he's going to go down. Clid finds the gank in bot lane.
Another outplay, Clid absolutely demolishes Viper there. Again, Viper being overconfident with that positioning. He doesn't respect Clid. His Q onto Lulu, he takes it in onto Meiko and makes the kickback play. Another just bag of gold here picked up by GENG.
And to where before they were kind of falling down to about 1,000 gold down, they've caught up, they're doing quite well now, and all of it really is coming off the back of Clid, who honestly had a bit of a rough game one. This time around, he's doing the heavy lifting for GENG.
I'm so thankful for GENG to make this one interesting. They're actually playing off of that, you know, mid-game pick potential with the Jhin, Rakan, and Lee Sin that they have. Some fearsome opportunities there for them. If they didn't do that, if they didn't get the money here, then the late game would be just such a landslide. EDG, of course, can still tell themselves, you know, just stick to the game plan, keep trying to, you know, go according and keep it on a smooth pathway towards their scaling later. But GENG making it very interesting here, making those picks, getting those kills.
And even now, right, GENG coming out with 3 mythics compared to 2 on the opposite side. So if any skirmish does happen in, you know, the next minute, I feel like GENG are solidly favored. Right now, it looks like Clid's pathing up towards that top lane to make something happen.
Interesting, too, because Flandre has no flash. Neither does the bottom lane. GENG now, Clid is revealed on the control ward, but they have this in their minds. Keeping these flash cooldown timers are so important. When your mid-game here hinges on so many of these picks and trying to make these plays,
They're just still going to be attacked there. Finds a knock-up, actually able to catch BDD, who jumped in but couldn't get the push back. However, Lee Sin is on the follow-through, and Clid gets a 3rd kill of the game. That's going to be Scout locked up, not quite dead yet. Sidesteps the Sonic Wave. That would have been a chase down for sure.
And just really nice play coming out from Clid. You can see all of Gen G just working together on the map. Life making his way up as well to make sure things are safe. BDD going in, and it just shows the strength of having the support of these roaming supports able to follow through. Clid being such an aggressive playmaker, now breaking down mid-turret. That's going to be so massive for Gen G on controlling vision in both quadrants of the enemy jungle.
Again, this is Gen G making these proactive plays. This is Gen G rewriting the narrative on them of being slow and not taking the opportunities that are in front of them. This is a proactive Gen G forcing all of these picks, all of these plays onto EDG. They're going to get rewarded on bottom side. Everybody moving over for the extra damage.
Turret number 2 going to fall, and they're actually going to let Ruler get the solo gold, it looks like. BDD and Clid both came down, made sure, okay, JJ didn't come on his way over. No one's going for a TP defense. Ruler, 300 gold richer. Now the bot lane, I mean, I like the Lulu pick, but as it came down to it, Gen G able to put enough pressure down through Clid. That bot lane was won by Gen G, and even without the help, Rascal started finding his solo kills.
And now we're going to be looking at top side of the map. EDG, of course, did just elect to give up bot lane to make their way up towards Rift Herald first. If Gen G had been a bit closer, I think they could have looked at posture and buy time, but EDG so early on this objective, they're not going to. For Gen G now, I think you just look towards bottom side, put vision down, and just keep up the dragon stacking game. You already have the first one, could potentially set this game up for a bit of an earlier soul, and then have a late game win condition in that.
Meta summon. Top lane, outer is definitely going to die, even just to auto attacks. Flag and drag in. Okay, I like this one. Also, if you're afraid of getting attacked, you flag behind. The AoE for the attack speed is very, very high. Put the autos, Q back out, no one's going to gank you. They're not going to burn the Herald just yet. They need to get that turret. Waiting for something more valuable, like maybe bot lane or mid lane.
Yeah, and I'm really surprised that Gen G haven't committed more towards this bottom side. It looks like they're really afraid that EDG might commit up towards another play on Rascal and then drop that Herald down on a tier 2.
Herald is really cool because it makes your opponents respond to you. If you want to make an unsuspecting play like this, where they were just hovering around in the fog of war there before walking back to this Tribrush ward, then you can overcommit to a side of the map and force your opponents to answer the hard push of the Herald, but it is a really good pick here.
Good play by JJ, but still rooted in place. He's gonna get kicked and killed. Well done by Clid. Best he could do was to ult through the charm. Still gets knocked down. It's gonna be a fight for some Krug gold. Not gonna matter a whole lot. Gen G proactive, winning in game 2.
It's Gen G unleashed in the mid game here. They just continue to beat up EDG. That ward in the Tribrush Freak. They call up the bottom lane, and Ruler with the Jhin ultimate opening up again. Clid finds another. 3 kills for him.
Scoop back on a scout. Ruler lands the snipe, lands the kill. It just keeps happening. This game belongs to Gen G.
And Gen G just finding picks all over the map. I'm pretty sure we saw Ruler walk right through mid-wave down towards that bottom side. Surprise Scout can get picked off by that. But I love that Gen G are keeping this momentum up. Already 3 turrets down, only 1 on the side of EDG. And all of this strength on the Lee Sin 3-0-0. Gore Drinker already making his way towards the Sterix as well. And for Gen G, they just need to keep this up. This is their power spike. This is their point of power. They have lockdown and numerous rolls coming out from the Rakan and the Jhin, and even good backline damage coming out from these here. EDG not having a great way of walking into that for Gen G.
Great point. And the way that they do push it ahead for Gen G is now that you do have all this priority with pushed in on side lanes and all outer turrets are gone, is exactly what Life is doing right now. Moves in, gets the deep wards to see the transitions between these secondary turrets here. When EDG are trying to catch that farm, they're sticking to the, we got a skill for late game plan. It's Gen G's opportunity to increase their lead. You take away the jungle camps, you threaten the picks here. They've made very good use of the Rakan engages. Clid's Lee Sin has been on point, forcing play after play for them. And now you get to leverage that extra territory that you've earned with the threat of those picks.
It's also, when you look at these 3 champions in particular, the Lee Sin, the Jhin, and the Rakan, there's so much long-range pick potential to follow up. EDG don't need to full-on commit into you for you to be able to find that one key pick to be able to push the gold lead further.
More damage here towards almost the turret. Looking for a bit of poke, maybe a CC and a lockdown, but just Gen G owning the right side jungle here is Zap. Not quite as good as Captive Audience, to be honest, and it's not going to do too much either. Now, looking for the next move as bot lane is still under fire. BDD happy to poke at Flandre as Ruler puts some shots under the turret.
Yeah, looks like Gen G should just be able to keep sieging this one down and get this. Ruler even still having his ulti if they want to wait, but next wave is pretty far away. Looks like for Gen G, they should probably just start pivoting towards mid, keep taking away these jungle camps. and looking for the next objective on the map, which probably is going to be Baron spawn. Get some vision down on the top side.
Again, one of the biggest things leveraged against GENG was them not pushing ahead game states, but they continue to increase it here, stealing away the jungle camps you mentioned, pushing out on the sides, and BDD holding off multiple members here with extra pressure. He's basically just buying time for the rest of the team in the numbers advantage side lanes to take down another.
And now for EDG, I feel like a big point of power you were looking for was the side lane pressure they'd be able to get with both Scout and Flandre, who should be able to win out in the 1-3-1. But GENG have done such a good job of playing out through 2 lanes, leaving Rascal on weak side, who has TB, should be fine to clear that one out and not giving the potential opportunity for EDG. You can see now EDG are the team who have to just all in on one lane of the map, give up farm on sides, and try and force something, which is where GENG are stronger right now.
Exactly. So now we're looking at EDG, their possible comeback mechanics in this game. Rise, ultimates, plus the Jarvan finding someone and getting that pick. Sometimes if you leave these openings and you don't do your due diligence with your warding from your split pushing and you're trying to gain too much in a map controlled situation, that's where the comebacks happen. And if you give some gold in a pick and a comeback opportunity to this EDG comp, that's when it gets quite scary, to the things that we were kind of warning about in the early stages, speaking about how that EDG comp will be so scary later on. GENG can easily transition over towards the Baron now when you see them moving in for super deep red quadrant coverage.
I think another nice thing for GENG going forward in this game is the fact that it will be an Infernal Soul. So it's not something like a Cloud where a lot of teams feel like, we're fine to just give that one up, just keep farming our own jungle camps and scale up. EDG are going to feel like they need to fight for these objectives going forward, and GENG have a reliable way to force EDG out of their base.
Yeah, we can see top lane tier 2 maybe the target, as we've got 3 members up there, only 2 on defense for EDG, but as Rise clears away the wave, they're not getting a whole lot of damage done. Their ruler showing up now as well. Renekton gonna come over and control mid, so a lot of members heading towards the top side. It's just Graves kind of accepting the farm down at bot lane, the Rebel of tier 2. GENG keeping the pressure going, already on 2 dragons. Baron has spawned a minute ago, and turret only gonna lose about a quarter of its health. Ultimately, it's not a whole lot done up here, but nothing given away, so it's just some extra turret chip.
This teleport very deep. They're going for the pick on a Renekton.
Yeah, they know he's isolated. They know he's away from the rest of the team, so Rascal going to be attacked and shut down. 500 gold goes through to the Graves.
And that was the pick that you were talking about, Kobe, for EDG to find ways back into the game, to find ways to pick up gold. It is going to give up a turret on the opposite side, but EDG needed to find anything.
We keep cursing both teams. Let's just keep talking about the comeback mechanics for each side, and we'll continue to have the back and forth here as EDG, not only is it a pick, but they trade turrets. They're going to leave open the inhibitor here. With 37 seconds left on the Dragon 2, you have to decide between getting your recalls off to reset for your control wards to go back down there. Flandre gets another outer, and the gold keeps flowing in.
Scout's one without TP, so he actually can't join that, but Flandre able to push down to the bottom side. This play, long form, has been positive gold to EDG because they got more turrets in the shutdown, or equal turrets in the shutdown. So overall gold positive, but the question is, can they play for Dragon in time if they want to slow down the stacking? Scout's gonna be able to get down to the river just about in time. GENG getting a lot of their recalls off, and I think it's gonna be a close battle.
Yeah, EDG at least will be able to get some river control cemented first, with the fact that Flandre was pushing in that bot side of the map. For GENG, though, we talked about a lot of the long-range pick tools. You can open up Jhin ultimate, try and force him off. Jhin, Rakan, follow up, but no, for GENG, they don't want to look for it. They're just going to back off.
I kind of like the choice from EDG to take that timing as an opportunity too, because as long as they get out here.
Yeah. He's got a dash.
GENG anyway is returning to take this tower, and they might be looking for an opening with Scout on the side.
They got a root, they got another root, almost, oh, barely. Clit is able to jump away. That was so close to being locked in place. The root prison did not come down in time.
No, so for GENG, they are going to be able to back off. Looks like Clit gets the smite, gets the red buff. And now GENG, of course, are going to posture towards the top side of the map, look to get that vision down, because Baron now the only standing neutral. And for GENG, I don't think they have a great way of punishing the fact that they took top lane inhibitor turret. Maybe that's one of the reasons why EDG were fine giving it up, because GENG don't really have a split pusher, but instead they want to bait the Baron. Or not.
Trinket used. They don't have ways of getting rid of the vision. They don't have a control inside the pit, so okay. Knew it was aggro, knew to back off. Flame Chompers do in fact reveal Fog of War, so you can always toss those down to fight for wards, but it's still a lot of fog. That blue Trinket has been slain, and so it's fog, and they gotta make their way forward, EDG.
Should be using flag
He wants to save it to not be charm knockups. Like, he could throw it down, but he's afraid if there's another spot to check, he needs it to get away. So ends up saving it, does not get punished for the sort of safety. But now we have round 2 on the Baron. GENG's starting it up again.
And for GENG, they do have a pretty decent Baron with the fact that they do have Nazir in their kit. And they have amazing turret potential. You can see Life looking for Viper or a certain member of EDG to walk too far forward.
Healing up again. TP is up for Flandre, but he's not been allowed to go back to the side of the map. GENG actually up in teleports, but right now playing consolidated. Ultimately, they're able to get out Viper's ulti, but no other cooldowns have been forced. So they try again. Flag goes down, not being hit yet.
I think a lot of this for GENG also stems from the fact that Flandre is still ahead in terms of just solid 1v1 against Rascal. Rascal can't go and push out in the side lane, so they need to make these 5-man plays around Baron. And EDG just need to stay here.
Split is showing on purpose so that there's no urgency.
Spotted, knock up there, big damage on a Clid, almost rooted in place, diving in for a stopwatch. TP coming in now, 5,000 health on the Baron. Will they turn back for the play? They could try to burn it. GEG is in, now it's GENG inside the pit. They're gonna disengage, but it's at 4K. If you're leaning to go for the play, you could, but Flandre, he could always ult out, he could always flash out. This is dangerous. Jinx can throw rockets over the wall, but I'm not sure EDG could win this one. Of course he has lives too, but it's not going to be enough. Baron will finally reset. The recalls come through for GENG in Fog of War, so it's still mostly unknown.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that EDG didn't want to more full-on commit to that one for the fact that Clid was one of the members who was low. I also think Life was probably about 50% HP. Members who can't just recall and TP back to the fight, but not wanting to be grouped up against a composition that does have so much AoE with the champions that GENG has picked.
Yeah, one of the problems that GENG are facing here is that there are such good split options for EDG. So GENG are trying to bait here into their picks. You know, the Rakan, the Jhin, can they find something? But EDG have been safe enough to avoid this while also having those outs for later, Lyric, having that map control. And guess what? The Jinx continues to scale, the Rise continues to scale. As long as they can control the next few minutes here for the side of EDG, they will remain pretty confident.
This is also why it's so massive that EDG were able to pick up the last dragon, right? Because if this would be sole point for GENG, EDG can't just play this posture game where they're staring at you and thinking about what they could do. They would have to walk into GENG's composition, so EDG buying themselves this breathing room where they're like, fine, we'll wait for waves to be on our side of the map, we'll pick up our own camps, and we'll keep relying on our scaling tools.
The classic GENG stall out freak, getting a little nervous.
Yeah, but it is a 4,000 gold lead, and they've been able to keep that one and actually grow it for most of the time. Control ward knocked down. Rascal gonna once again create Fog of War inside this Baron pit, so they can keep playing this dance. Double TP up on the one side, still only Scout on the other, so GENG could play the sides and then group down. Dragons up in 50 seconds. EDG taking final recalls. Flandre on 3.5 items. And level 16 as Clid is up 2 levels in the jungle, but the broken stopwatch gonna have a while until the GA is ready.
Yeah, and speaking of stopwatches, we don't have anything on Viper, so Viper just gonna be relying on his own positioning, his Lulu, and of course his summoner spells, and definitely feels like Viper being the big member you need to watch for. But Flandre as well probably will be the big damage dealer in this team fight with how much gold he was accelerated in the early game.
Keep your eyes open for a possible flank angle too, because if they can get a deep ward here for GENG to allow Rascal to teleport in, Life is looking.
They're looking. They're going to find the knockup. Is it enough to kill BDD? Clid force back as well. GENG so incredibly low. They get the Lulu ulti. Viper can take some of it. He's going to run his way out. Is this going to be a play? No, gonna jump backwards, but be careful because they can keep on going. It's a flash in for Clid. It's a flash in for Life. 1 kill so far. Will they find a second? Mako is low. Mako could drop, and Mako does. Really gonna get that kill. Looking for another flash is in, finds the shutdown, and Flandre's on his way out. GENG are gonna find this game. They're gonna find 4 kills. The map belongs to GENG.
EDG overreach, and GENG will walk this one right to the base.
And amazing to see, especially from Clid and Life to follow that one up. Rascal with the flank as well, and GENG looks like they can just walk this one down.
If you come at BDD, you better not miss. They punish the turnaround. JJ goes down, and GENG will even it up.
All right, 1-1 in this one. A stopwatch for good measure. Not going to matter. You are not going to defend this base. The Nexus turrets will fall. The respawns come in. A dunk for GENG to buy a little bit of time. Flashing away to safety. Rascal gonna take out this turret for a while. The rocket might land for a bit of damage. And maybe, just maybe, the Nexus won't fall. Are there gonna be a little bit more to play in this game? Looks like yes. The Dragon is gonna be a gimme. as GENG are forced out of the base.
I gotta be honest, if that game did end right there, it would have been completely out of left field, out of nowhere. And for GENG, I wonder if they, nope, they don't have the health bars to stay and look for a dragon. But EDG maybe on the top side.
Heroics there from EDG to hold at the Nexus, stalling GENG, and now they have really strong possible response, forcing on Baron. You see the teleports quickly coming out from EDG to from GENG to answer.
At least you go for the vision, but you might go for the Baron rush. Now Clint did stay on the map, but that means he hasn't spent since the last team fight. A little bit more than normal. TP in, they're gonna rush us down.
Clint.
It's gonna be a smite fight. It's gonna be a smite fight. Is Clint gonna get it?
Clint.
He is. You gotta be kidding me. It just keeps happening, and we're gonna have a whole bunch of kills. It's Flandre running for the hills. A Realm Warp brings two to safety, but they're gonna pick up every single one they clan. Okay, it's gonna be BDD putting a stopwatch. It's gonna be 3 shots for a minute, but BDD stays alive. Scout and Mako doing the best they can. Flandre cannot lifesteal enough. Ruler keeps finding the kills. Then a stopwatch buys another couple of seconds. A flash of safety will not bring Mako back to life. Ruler gets another, and that's gonna be the ace. This time it is GENG finding the kills. Clid does not miss smites, and game 2 is gonna go to GENG.
Amazing to see from the early game coming out from GENG, especially Clid. It felt like he was everywhere he needed to be. Colby, you kept talking about the outplays, the playmaking that Clid needed to find. He found it throughout the whole game. And this game, sure, GENG dominated, but it really felt like that one team fight at the end where EDG just overcommitting, looking for BDD, completely ended the game there.
Ooh, this series is very back and forth, gentlemen. A lot of openings here. I agree, my honors going to Clid for sure for this game. He really took it upon himself to be that leader for the team, creating so